About me in 2011 where the startup I wanted to get all the obsolete hardware engineers that for some reason people weren't hiring. Oh, because of Y2K. That's why. The Y2K thing. I was like, what the fuck is Y2K? I go, why aren't they talking to hardware engineers who design stuff? Yeah. We don't design stuff. So you're flying along, you get a bad date, and the freaking plane flies out of the ground. No, you reset to some condition, you do this, you do that. But it was because everybody benefited financially. And so it's like, it's almost by design. And so I just happened to be on that bleeding edge. I mean, I was hoping there'd be 100,000 people of me, and it felt like I was the last American going through this stuff because, but then when things really got gnarly and the cops were, like in Emeryville, were chasing me and like to kill me probably, I mean, but credibly to harm me physically. I went to East Oakland and found the grubbiest neighborhood. Or it's like, where would they not look for me? Because I was in every blah, blah, blah. And so I went off into one of these little drug den area neighborhoods, and they took care of me. Within 15 minutes of things, I got a cousin, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I couldn't spend a year probably tell you the situation, the story. And I was like, how the fuck is a situation where I talk to you in 15 minutes that what I say is credible to you? And so that's when I'm like, wow. So that's when I started to like, what's really going on here, type of stuff. And so I have a different outlook as far as people, and it seemed like then in Oakland they kind of parsed out as long as the guys wore white T-shirts, as long as they weren't killing people, in their neighborhoods, Oakland seemed to allow them to function. Yeah. And so it seemed like, they harbored me, or they allowed me to stay there for a couple days at a time. I'd go and venture off and come back, and I'd park in a little cul-de-sac, and little junkies on, like you hear Chris Rock, right? Just creep. Yeah. But it was like, well, fuck. I was just like, so that's where I live now is Oakland. And then when I started to get all this portfolio on, I had no idea it was NSA, but I knew it was the federal government because I kept trying. Well, recursive. I'm worried about what it is 9/11 opened up the ability for people for private companies to collect information on other Americans. You see he's well known in California, Arthur Schnack, different technique or whatever. But my point is on the original sin. See, the original sin is collecting information on Americans and sifting, like, it'd be akin to going undercover to a mosque or a church. It's kind of a taboo thing. Well, now, if you read the privacy agreement, sometime in mid-2000s, they changed from protecting someone's privacy to protecting the privacy intrusions of the company. It was a marked change in the privacy agreement. Like, there would be a catch-all, and blah blah blah, the normal stuff. Why, what type of information they collect, and they say, and software that might threaten our operating system, or something. Some incredibly broad catch-all. And so what I found out is for the most part, nothing happens. But it can probably with an administrative warrant. Remember when they used to be able to go in and get Blockbuster? They used to be able to get in your rental agreement with essentially a memo, or it's supposed to be signed off on a judge or something. That's how it might start. But all it is just all you have to do is have official looking paper. And then some people now with social engineering, all you got to do is just have a badge and wave the paper, and they'll let you have the rental agreements and that type of stuff. Well, I had a theory that that's what happened with Microsoft, and it turned out to be true. And so all hell broke loose trying to keep that from. And I was so far advanced to the thing that no matter what I knew that no matter what I say, it would sound like an invasion of the body snatchers. Yeah. And so it was a conundrum. So I had to wait it out, and the more I waited out, the more I focused on other things, the more I pissed other people off. And then that's when they started to just pick me up. Right, and then they could just pick me off, and then whatever. Yeah, it's okay.
I know something just happened.
I'm just watching some keys right here, so that's my excuse. Okay. I don't care, free speech and all that stuff. I'm not. They're adults.
If you're here for something, like I said, I just kind of came back.
I was here just to see if they were going to use compliance techniques, and I don't know if they did, but it did seem like the gal with the purple hair and the two kids. And when I first came, right after I talked to you, she came up with the exactly. Well, number one, the business owner. Yeah. having a political event, say, dude, you can't, you have a political event, you have to expect that the press is going to be able to cover it, right?
Yeah.
It's not a
They're
private
gonna
home,
yeah.
right? It's because of Unruh Act and stuff like that. I go, if I'm allowed in here and the politician's talking to the constituents, as a member of the press, I should be able to document what's going on here. So
Yeah.
that's why the transparency
Yeah.
stuff. And so,
Well, like I said, I think that's important.
right, and so I'm trying to say is this should have been an economic boon to you, but what's happening is, and I'm trying to impart this on him, is it's a trap, and it's very difficult. It's impossible to say in 140 characters. It's impossible to say in a couple sentences or a couple paragraphs. All he wants to do is he doesn't want to lose his franchising agreement, or he doesn't want to get extra. He probably qualifies from this. This the thing is they get the original sin, and then all of a sudden they get you on. That might be a more loaded word. I don't know what it carries. To me, it's a gloss over, whatever it might be. This might be his thing that's saying that, oh, if she didn't come and support me because I've been conditioned to know that if I champion it on my own, more likely than not, it's easy to take me off the streets, all right? But now with 3 people, you have to need these 3 people. With 3 people, it's less productive for them to take you off the streets, because with people with live streams and these little, so we have all these weird confluences of technology that are giving us advantages and disadvantages. How would you possibly say that? That's my point. No, I know. Yeah,
I just want to say bye.
no, of course.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. Hey, Jean's stuff's still here, so are they outside, or I'm going to grab her stuff?
Darren, thank you for being with
You're welcome too. I was very respectful. Any case, I think we covered. All of it's just tangents of that stuff. If you have kids or a girlfriend, whatever you can do, build up layers of self-confidence. Whatever that your excellences is, or whatever. Defend the Constitution and not political parties, and be compliance is good for society, and mean that stoplights and that type of stuff. But beware of. I mean, the playbooks are out there. I have to point to certain speeches, but there's legitimate concerns about. See, the thing is for every yin, there's a yang, right? For every, I don't want kids to be doxxed and stuff like that, but at the same time, I don't want it to be weaponized to bring them into silence of speech, especially if she had no question to ask why did you didn't have a question to ask the politician who was here, or give a suggestion for a law. So that's why, to me, it's indistinguishable, so I have to come up with these terms, indistinguishable from being a setup. Hey, I'm just waiting for Jean for her keys, so if you want to go grab her.
I think they're coming back.
All right. Yeah, he's a little more confrontational than I am. But deservedly so, because if you do it as long as what he has, he finds he's peeled off more layers to know that it's not a wound that he's opening up. It's a insurrection. And that's, I guess, it's not unlike, I guess, I would think somebody in the religious thing that says, "Oh my God, I have the way. I know that the world's going to blow up," and it becomes religious at some point. And so, how do we balance those? I don't know, but so that's why I try to be the law. I mean, I'm constitutionalist, paralegal, engineer, local, this, that, and the other thing, to try to, not objective, just say, hey, and then I'll talk loud if there's background music. I'll do whatever's reasonable to try to keep your pursuit of happiness available. And it's not me telling you. I want as many ideas to be discussed, but I don't want people to comply because they're rude, or because it's like,
That's not really a conversation anymore.
Right. Well, hold on. So, but we have to be able to. They're saying that not being able to discuss religion and politics in the cocktail party is probably the worst advice you can give to society, because what that does is that gives people more excuses not to communicate. And both of those, politics. It's like that's every law, taxes, regulation. So these are very cleverly designed, and indistinguishable from being well designed decades ahead of time. And so if I pass on compliance versus self-confidence, too much self-confidence is addiction or some weird, and then too much compliance is a prison. And so it used to be that we wanted that pendulum to swing back and forth, as opposed to now they have it pegged to one side and they're taking advantage of that. And as opposed to discussing politics as a flat earth, left and right, is not right. Because what happens is that left and right meet on the other side of the earth. It's round, it's a sphere. So United States say that we're on, and I have a graphic of this, so basically liberal and conservative thought is on the lower half, good faith discussion, ideas, exchanging ideas. Bad faith is anarchy, and then on top of that, communism and fascism, which is essentially the same thing, just different. Communism's controlling everything. Fascism is what is enabling monopolies or gifting. Basically, the government decides winners and losers. So that's what where we're at right now. Is the winners and losers are Twitter and Facebook, and seeing that Bill Gates is a hero. This dude was one of the most ruthless, unethical business. So you've been around, right?
Yeah.
He would buy companies just to kill him, like what they were talking about, oil companies.
Trying to preserve his legacy now by donating.
Well, guess what? What if they're introducing? What if they're
thousands of lives?
Right. What if they're introducing diseases into the United States to create a panic so that we give all of our database to the government for them to abuse? And it's not that they want to abuse everybody, but they want to create lines. It seems to me indistinguishable from the addiction of power and the lust for power. And so when I see that he was investing $100 million in tropical infectious diseases, I was like, this guy, I don't think he's, Paul Allen and Bill Gates. Paul Allen was good faith, Bill Gates bad faith. Paul Allen's the one who got Seattle Mariners and all this stuff. And it's a great guy, Park, Xerox Park in Stanford and all this other stuff. Well, so it's that there's a yin and yang. And so now the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, beware. Ty Decker, Tyho.
Your press? For who?
Ben's, Frontline America.
I hope you got a lot of great stuff today.
Well, yeah, well.
The video of him running away from me.
We're just exchanging. We're locals.
He's a guy. Can I get a photo?
Yeah. Sure.
I know you're press. You're working.
No, I'm same as you. I'm just.
You working for Ben?
I am working for America.
But I mean Ben Berkowitz.
When assigned, I am.
Okay.
But not right now.
Let's get a photo.
Ben's in D.C. I'm ready. Okay. Hey, what's your name again? Will Ty Decker or Tyho Decker. I don't. If you want to, if you have, do you know Twitter? Do you do Twitter at all? TAI Decker. Or on the website Reluctant Reporter. I don't use Reluctant Reporter to get views. I use it as a timeline, and then Tyho Decker, whatever. So TAI Decker. Yeah. CECKER. And Tyho is how they knew me in Fremont High School here in Sunnyvale. I was ASB president back then. Okay. And so, yeah, exactly. So this is all what, let them have fun, and how can I preserve their pursuit of happiness as well as free enterprise. See, the thing is a free enterprise and competition.
Like I said, I appreciate what you're doing, because I think, I was actually a little surprised there weren't. Why isn't this more publicized?
Yeah, Chamber of Commerce should have been notified. There's things that are incongruent. See, there's words I use. I've been indistinguishable from the truth, or indistinguishable, meaning as opposed to accusing somebody. It's just like, well, it's indistinguishable from, as if you wanted to do this on purpose. Incongruent is that it doesn't make sense. It's just like congruence is laser, right? So incongruence, like it kind of just it's weird. It just so that's why when you see these type of things, and then you also see when I say #Birdseed, some of the stuff, because I was able to cover so much ground, I don't know how to document this stuff because I'm already not credible, and so. But I've never had more degrees of freedom by being not credible, because I survived it, and I left these little anchors and bird seeds out there. But I know. So what they're doing is they're going to, what they did to me is they convinced me I had no hope and that I should take this medication. And so And so, right.
Yeah.
No, but then I lost a year and a half of my life. I get 100 pounds heavier. But for me, it was like, how bad can this possibly be? Because I was what I call is immersion journalism. And so I was like, oh, well, I'll be able to. You lose what they do is they knock, it's like what Bill Cosby is being guilty of. They knock you out, and then they pretend they Stockholm syndrome them. And so within a few months, I was like doing everything that they wanted me to do until by my natural personality or my defense of the Constitution, Antifa up in Berkeley, because that's where all this stuff is like, it's indistinguishable as if there's a guiding hand. That's what's so weird about this. And I'm not even that type of religious type of person, but
I like your perspective. So like I said,
yeah. Well, you know how to. I mean, you can get a hold of me when you want to, but just let you know that good faith versus bad faith, and bad faith is you'll see it on my line when you see the good faith and bad faith, and there are times when I might have to use psychology myself, and what I try to do is I try to troll people. Like, what they'll do is, look at Comey. He covers up his camera. Like, why the hell did he cover up his webcam? Because all they need to do is take one of these photographs, and all of a sudden that person's screwed, right? Where it's some compromise. Well, what I did was I would do demonstrations trying to get this clip of me using a glass pipe, but having what do they call that? Not nicotine, because India used it. Essentially, polypropylene glycol is the basic stuff. It's essentially it evaporates, and it's the stuff they use for. If you can go and buy no nicotine. If I have one little, like any percentage of nicotine, I start coughing. And so I would demonstrate this to try to, because I'm paralegal, I'm trying to do legal exhibits that because I anticipated them using this against the client that I was representing. And so I was like, I'm not, so if I do a demonstration, just by having this pipe, you can't tell what's inside the pipe, right? And so all they have to do is have this, look, he's obviously doing crack or something like that, and it's just like, but I won't get the opportunity to say, no, I'm a paralegal, I was using a demonstration. And they're like, oh, we have an informant who did that. No, because it's like, that's my point is, so you'll know, I've been trying to outmaneuver. Initially what I thought it would just stop, and no, it wasn't for me, it was somebody else, because they would do the Zimbardo prison experiment on families. Did you know that person who's convicted of a misdemeanor?
I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
Jean is really hungry.
All right, let's go. Hey, again, is it your name, first name? Will, Ty, all right? In any case, so it's all nested and stuff like that. My point is all it takes is one. If something happens to me, because what's the broader frame? And there's a book that I'll post. There's 3 books. One of them's by President Obama in his reading list. It's called Thinking Fast and Slow. When you think fast and slow, it's like when I present it to somebody, I'm not a slow thinker. No, the slow thinking is rational thinking. So even using that title automatically cuts off a number of people, because if you try to recommend it to somebody, they might seem like I'm not dim-witted. But that's my point. And so I was like, haha, it's very, So, all right, Will, I appreciate you allowing me to exchange so much information, because it's.
Well, that's how it works, right?
It is how it works.
So much of people, like you were saying, yelling at each other. It's like, let's just talk.
Right.
I appreciate
Cheers, Will. All right. Hey, thank you so much. And just give you a heads up that we had this conversation, and what I did was I'm in a chess match. I've checkmated him, and I'm the king. I can only move one thing at a time, but the only way that they win is if I'm not able to tell the story. And that's the thing, is because so I have documents, I have this. So the only way that they win is if I'm obscure, and so that gives me, I guess, how many degrees of freedom I have. I can do anything I want as long as I do it legally, and nobody wants me to be popular. So that's the cool part. So that's why I do that. Exactly. So right. So it's unconventional. How can I use this negative as a positive? All right. Cheers. Hey there. Thank you so much. All right. Hey, great business, by the way. Great drink. I don't know what a Zoba Boba is, but it was a surprise. But good luck to you on your business. And when I'm back in here, I'll spend some more money. Yeah, no, I thank you so much, sir. Yeah.